So, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to another very special Cerule webinar, because everything here at Cerule, it really is special because we have life-changing products, we have a life-changing business opportunity. And the business opportunity is so special and so great, but many of us need to break through our limitations. Many of us need to become more. When we become more, we have more, and we're going to learn more tonight about becoming more from a man that's been in network marketing for 47 years. He's a holistic doctor. He's an author of 12 books, and he has an enormous amount of experience. But before we go to that man, to Ray Gebauer, we're going to go over to my jolly good friend Mark Parsekian in Boston. He's the top of the pay plan here in Cerule. He's a chairman, and he's just a great guy. He's got a lot of wisdom, and he knows how to prospect major leaders and bring them into the business and expose them to what we have. So Mark Parsekian, this part of the call is yours.
There we go. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Jolly good.
Well, Ian, thank you so much as always. And Mark Anderson, thank you so much as always of making this possible. And also, just ahead of time, I want to really thank Ray Gebauer for being on today, despite his busy schedule. And I also want to thank all of you for joining. I know you all have very busy schedules and you could be doing other things, but you chose to be here for a reason. And I really respect that. I honor that because your time is very valuable. But obviously, you chose to be here because it was important. Whether it's for the product, the business, or just wanting to know more, to do more, to be more effective, or to whatever it might be. So again, I just want to thank you. That being said, I just want to say that, Ian and I have been involved with this industry for over 30 years, and with no experience. We're not salespeople. We're very purpose-driven, and we don't give up until we succeed. And oftentimes we fail, but those failures really were the most important experiences because it taught us how to be successful and what not to do. And oftentimes it's those experiences that are the most difficult things in life that really is what forges you spiritually, mentally, even physically, to attract what it is that you want in your life. So that being said, I've always wanted to bring some big leaders here to Cerule. It's a funny story. Through a mutual friend, I never knew Ray Gebauer. Well, I shouldn't say that. I knew of him because he was one of the top, or the top earner over in a company years ago called Manatech. And I was introduced to the company through another friend. So I would hear him on all these conference calls espousing, how to be successful and etc. So I have always heard of him as a rock star in the industry. And long story short, a friend of mine introduced me to his wife. We became acquainted, and one thing led to another, and he was involved with many other opportunities. And, I sent him some product. I said, I know you have a lot on your plate. I said, just try the product. Use the product, and sent it to him. And literally within a few days after getting the product, between smelling it and tasting it and having an experience with it, it totally changed his whole perspective of what he was doing for a business, because he was involved with quite a few. And he made a abrupt change, and he came to Cerule and hit 100K very quickly, and has a significant group that he's brought over here. So we've become good friends. I've learned a lot from him over the years of various strategies, etc. But he's just a wealth of information, and I'm very honored to have him here at Cerule. So with that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Ray Gebauer, or back to you, Ian. I'll turn it back to you, and you could introduce him, I guess, and ask the first questions.
All right. Well, with that, welcome, Ray Gebauer. You there, Ray? Are you unmuted?
Yeah, I just unmuted. Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, look, Ray, let's start off. Sometimes in our industry, it's not easy, and sometimes people feel disappointed or frustrated about challenges, and I'm sure you've gone through plenty of those in the last 47 years. And some people may feel, well, I'm just not helping enough people, or people aren't taking me seriously, or seeing the value of what we have. So that's the first question. What are your thoughts on that, Ray?
Well, first of all, I'd say probably pretty much everybody goes through that for a length of time. Myself, I struggled for a couple of decades before I finally found myself at the right place, the right time, with the right people and the right product. And, I was ready, and I really needed something, because at that point in 1994, I was basically homeless, living in someone's unfinished basement. I had no income. My car was getting repossessed. And, but I got a call from somebody, and at first I said, no, I'm not interested. But then eventually he got through to me. I said, okay, maybe this is the one that's going to make up for all the others that haven't worked, because I hadn't had any real success, a little bit here and there, but you have to have all the right pieces, together at the same time. And so that worked really well. By the end of that year, I was making over 20,000 a month, and developed a group of almost 1 million people. Over 14 years, made about $10 million with the company. And I grew a lot, and it was a great ride. But the reality is, most people really struggle, some people their whole life. And even when you love the product and you want to help people, sometimes there's either things missing, or just it's not clicking. So I'd like to share some ideas with you, and to sort of illustrate that, I got this. It's $1 million bill, so add it upside down. Give me some $1 million ideas. The product can help you feel like $1 million, but it'd be nice if we could actually help enough people where we could make $1 million, right? So one of the things that I think interferes with us getting to first base, and there's multiple stages to the conversation. First, you got to get their attention and their interest, and keep it long enough for them to see the big picture. And many times people don't take you seriously. You don't have the credibility. So one of the things I created not too long ago, less than a month ago, I realized a lot of people are making the mistake, and sometimes I was too, of leading too much with the details about the product or the science, and we can lose people. I mean, to us, it makes sense. Well, people want to know how it works and all that. And so I came up with a story. It's really an analogy that as soon as I started using this, people would instantly get the value of this. And, so it can make up for, maybe lack of credibility or lack of confidence, but everybody likes a good story. So here's what I do. Here's what I say. And it's worked really well for me. And people I've shared this with that are doing it, they're getting much faster, easier results, a lot less resistance. Because people like stories. People will sit for 2 hours and watch a movie. That's just a story, right? So people love stories. So ideally, you always want to start with this story, either your personal story, like say, hey, before I tell you about this, let me tell you what happened to me. Some kind of story. But before I use the word stem cells, I want them to understand the concept before I get into any details. So want to hear the story? Okay, so here's what I say. I say, well, first I briefly introduce it by saying something like, as you know, John, most people are struggling with at least one health challenge. I mean, 80% of the people are diabetic, half the people get cancer, people don't have enough energy, they can't sleep well. People have all sorts of problems. People hate problems, and what we do, we help people solve problems. And we have a unique solution. But to explain how this solution works, I'm going to give you just a quick analogy so it'll be really crystal clear, rather than getting into all the science and all that. So let's say, John, that you somehow acquired, or you own this large apartment complex, hundreds of units. And so you're renting out these units, and it's bringing in a lot of money. And of course, you got repairs that happen all the time, or they need to be taken care of all the time. And so you had to hire 10 maintenance guys, and they're full-time, 10 repair guys, always fixing things, whether it's the toilet or a leak or a broken window or whatever. And it works really well until one day, some of these guys stop showing up for whatever reason. And you can't get them to come back. And then over time, fewer and fewer are showing up. And eventually you're down to one guy. So you're down 90%. You need all 10. So what's going to happen? Well, the repairs are going to start piling up. And eventually you can't rent out most of the units. You won't make enough money. You're going to go out of business, right? Just because the repair jobs weren't being taken care of. Now, the reason I share that with you is because that's exactly what happens in our body every day. Our body has thousands of repair jobs that need to be done every single day. And as you can imagine, if those aren't taken care of, things start falling apart. And eventually, it doesn't end well. And that's why most people are suffering with one or more issues. So the way the body repairs itself, I call them the super cells of the body. These super cells are like the repairmen. They're also called, the scientific word is stem cells. These are your own stem cells that you already have. You don't need to get more stem cells. But the problem is, as we get older, they get locked into or stuck in your bone marrow. So like a lockdown. And eventually by around 60, 65, 90% of them are stuck in this lockdown. They can't get out and go to work. So your body's desperately trying to keep up with all these repair jobs, thousands of them every day, with only 10%, which is impossible. So it's pretty predictable what's going to happen. Things are going to start falling apart, and it doesn't end well. And so the solution is using a combination of plant extracts that our scientists have discovered. All you do is you take a couple capsules, 1 or 2 capsules, a couple times a day, and within a few minutes, millions of these stem cells are suddenly released from your bone marrow where they're being stored. So they can go out there and start catching up with all these repair jobs that the body's got so far behind on. And in many cases, people start feeling better and improvement within 24 hours, sometimes even faster. But 100% of the people they get benefits and results, even if you may not feel it for a few days or even a few weeks. But just like we all need food and oxygen, we all need active stem cells. I mean, how would it work for you if you were trying to survive on only 10% of the food that you need, or 10% of the oxygen? Not so well. Same thing with stem cells. You've got to reactivate them, get them out of storage so the body keep up all the repairs. And so the bottom line, what this does, it optimizes your self-healing. That's all it does. It doesn't cure anything, doesn't prevent anything. It just empowers your body. It optimizes your self-healing. So that's the analogy I always lead with, because once they hear that, now it's crystal clear what we're talking about, what the problem is and the solution. And so using that is one thing that would really help.
Wow, Ray, what a story. And I love it. When you said lockdown, we can all relate to that. When we're locked down, we can't do anything. Wow, that is phenomenal. Now, often people feel stressed or uncomfortable. They may feel like a salesperson, and they hold back, say, well, I don't want to come off like a salesperson. What do you have to say to that?
Well, first of all, that's very pervasive. That's probably the main reason 95% of the people do not have success and make much money. And less than 5% do. Not because the product isn't good or the pay plan, it's because they're too much outside their comfort zone, and it's just too stressful to be feeling like a salesperson and concerned how people might perceive them. And so to avoid that emotional pain and play it safe, well, we just won't play in the game, or just a little bit, so we don't get hurt, supposedly. So one of the ways to counteract that, and I think the most elegant way, is I come from this model that I actually discovered about 14 years ago. I call it the 4 dimensions of diamond love. And once you understand this, you can apply it in any situation, and it can reduce or eliminate your stress or concern, your anxiety about what people think. So so it may sound like I'm on a tangent here, but this is really the most important thing I can tell you. It's become my life message. The problem with the word love is most people don't really know what it means. It's been downgraded to mean you like something. You love pizza, you love ice cream, you love your car, you love whatever. And when you have such a superficial idea of what love means, it's hard to fully be loving. And what this business really is about is loving people. So what does it mean to love people? So I discovered 4 distinctions, 4 dimensions of love. That's really sort of the clue is really in the Bible. It talks about loving God with all of our heart, soul, strength, and mind. So what's the difference between loving with our heart versus our soul versus our strength versus our mind? There's 4 distinctions. And once you identify what those distinctions are, then you can more consciously and deliberately be loving in each of those 4 ways, because you need all 4. So in my opinion, loving from, and it comes out with 4 C's, so it's pretty easy to remember. So the 4 dimensions of love, loving from your heart, soul, strength, and mind, is caring. That's loving from your heart. That's the most obvious. Loving from your soul, that's the connecting dimension. Loving with all of your mind, that's the commitment element. And loving with all your strength, that's the creating value. Those are the 4 C's: caring, connecting, committing, and creating value. So in the situation where you feel uncomfortable talking to people because you're concerned how they might judge you, or or whatever, when you look at the situation from this perspective, with this model, I say, so am I a caring person? Do I care about this person? I'm doing them a favor. I'm not asking you for a loan. I'm here to save their life or help them. So when you sort of reorient your thinking that this is an action of love and caring, okay, so that really helps. Secondly, the loving from your soul, that's the connecting. And so this is what we do. We connect with people, starting with asking questions, finding out what their problems are. What are the concerns? People hate problems. So don't assume they need this product. Tell them or ask them, hey, what's going on? I mean, do you have any concerns? Do you have any medication? Do you have any, are you sleeping okay? Do you have enough energy? Do you have any pain? So find out what the problems are. And then so after you connect on an emotional level, because people hate problems, so meet them where they're at, find out what the problems are, then say, would you be open to a possibility may help you address some of these problems? So I think I have a pretty unique solution that might help you. And so then you present your solution, but you got to connect. You have to have some rapport and connect with them where they're at with their concerns and problems. The third C, the third dimension, commitment. With your mind, you commit. So you got to be clear, you're committed to helping people. This isn't just about making money. You're here to make a difference, to enrich their lives, to make $1 million difference, right? Not just make $1 million, but make $1 million difference for them. We're here to help and serve people. This is how we love people. And so just coming from that mindset, that attitude, that mentality, that frequency, that energy, they feel that. They feel that you're there for them, not to use them, but to help them, to be there as a servant, to help them. And of course, the 4th C is creating value. We're here to be creators, to create value for them. And I believe when someone uses these extraordinary products, we're creating tremendous value. So why would you withhold that from somebody when you know how good this is? I mean, that's not right. They deserve to know about this. So it's not loving to withhold valuable information. If you have the cure for cancer, wouldn't you think you should tell people? Now, this isn't a cure for anything, but it empowers the body to optimize self-healing. So when you look at the situation from this perspective, these 4 dimensions of who you really are, because deep down we all are loving people, but if we are more conscious of those 4 distinctions, loving with all of our heart, with the caring, all of our soul, that's the connecting, loving with our mind, that's the committing. And you may even say something about, hey, I'm really committed to help any way I can. And then creating value, that's loving with all of our strength. That's the action part of love. So when you come from that perspective, it pretty much, can eliminate your stress and anxiety and concern. Here's a quick little story to illustrate this sort of dramatically. Let's say you're up on 20 stories in a skyscraper, and there's another skyscraper close by, and there's a board across it. And someone says, "Hey, I'll give you $100 if you walk across that board." Are you kidding me? How about $1,000, $1 million? No way, you know. And then all of a sudden, this criminal is at the other building, and he has your grandchild or your child. He says, hey, lady, I'm going to drop this kid if you're not over here in 30 seconds. What's going to happen? You'll be there, right? Okay, because now you see what's at stake. You see the importance of doing what you need to. So now all of a sudden your commitment went from 0 up to 100%, because when the why is strong enough, the how will take care of itself. And so when we adopt that attitude, that mindset, we're empowered, we become unstoppable. And so instead of failure becoming the default setting as it is for most people, we can make success inevitable. So now it's just a matter of time. I call it the FBI formula. You know, freedom becomes inevitable. And the other version of that is failure becomes impossible. But you have to be empowered. And the 4 dimensions of love, I think, is the most empowering dynamic I've ever come across. And you can use it in your marriage, in relationships with your children, business, spiritually, in every arena. So that's one of the ways you address that concern.
Wow, Ray, I've never heard it put that way before. To makes you live with a fire of purpose, makes you make a decision, and it takes away fear of loss, because you're there thinking they're the other person, trying to serve them. So there is no loss. My goodness, that is just wonderful. And it just takes down our hesitancy or our limitations, so we cannot help but forge ahead, because there is no loss. We only uplift others, and we only create value. Fabulous, Ray. I love it. Now,
yeah, the only loss would be if you keep your mouth shut. You're depriving them. So everyone deserves to know. And one of the lines I like to use, I'll throw it in right here, is I always say, the only reason every doctor isn't already putting all their patients on this, because they just don't know about this. The only reason you're not using this is you just didn't know about it, or you didn't know what it could do for you. So everyone deserves to know about this, because this is too good. I mean, so anyway.
Powerful. It reverse engineers. So our psychology realizes we're doing a disservice to somebody if we're not reaching out. I love it. Look, sometimes we feel something is missing or holding us back, or causes us to make slow progress in helping people make more money. So what are your thoughts about that one?
Well, that's very common too. Probably at least 95% of the people, even when you're committed and you're devoted and you love the products and everything, sometimes it's still not working, and sometimes it's not your fault. Just people are just closed-minded and they're not open. I like to point out the fact that as almighty as God is, God cannot help somebody if they're closed-minded. You got to be open-minded. And sometimes, you just can't get through because they're just too closed-minded. Sometimes we can open them up. We don't think about closing, think about opening. Sometimes we can open people up to possibilities by asking the right questions. As long as you have enough rapport and you've done some connecting. But sometimes, no matter what you say, if someone doesn't get on these products after I talk to them, you know how I feel? I'm like, I'm shocked. Like, well, how could they not see this? Did I forget to say something? So it isn't always you. But lots of times it is us. Lots of times we barge into the excitement of what the products are and what they do, and we lose people. So you've got to lay the foundation first of you're addressing their problems. What are their problems? We are here as problem solvers. We're not here to sell stuff. We're not here to educate people about stem cells. Who cares what the product is? What people care about is they want help. They want to solve their problems, and we have the solution. So that's part of it, is making sure you start well so you get their attention, use stories, use the analogy. And there's a couple other things I want to mention here that are really important, because some of the stuff you just can't figure out yourself, no matter how smart you are. I mean, I went from a zero to hero, from nobody to somebody, not because I figured it out, but because I got help. I paid money for coaches, training, did a lot of personal development. I spent $25,000 with one coach. It made a huge difference for me. And so you don't necessarily have to spend money. There's a lot of good educational stuff on YouTube, but don't try to be a lone ranger here, do all this yourself. And so you have a built-in support system with your upline. And if your direct upline is available, and just keep going upline until you find someone who can maybe help you figure out what's missing. What are you doing wrong? Or what's just missing? And you also need accountability. Ideally, everybody needs accountability, including the president of every country. They need accountability. Sometimes they sort of operate without much accountability. But we all do better when something is measured and reported. Everybody. And so whatever you're doing, let's say your goal is to talk to 3 people a day or 1 person a day. So you got to measure that and ideally report it. Report on Facebook, or to somebody. Send your accountability partner a text every day. Well, here's what I did. I met my goal, whatever it is. And the third thing I'd mentioned along this line that can make a huge difference is related to goals. Goals can be points of empowerment, or a goal can be a point of embarrassment. And many times goals can backfire on us because we start feeling like a failure because we're not meeting our goals. So one of the ways to handle that is to have 2 levels of goals. You want to have the big goal, the dream. Like Martin Luther King didn't say, I have a plan. He said, I have a dream. Mark talks about that. Yeah, we all need to be talking about what's your dream. And so that's one piece of the puzzle, the formula. Find out what their dream is, what's really important to them. But that's not enough. They need to have daily goals, or you need to have daily goals. And the best kind of daily goal, particularly an activity type goal, is to make it a tiny goal so that it's a no-brainer. Like if you're talking to one of your people, say, hey, would you be willing could you commit to 10 minutes a day or 5 minutes a day? Something really tiny. Well, yeah, I can do that. So once you have a minimal effort type goal that anybody could do that. Well, once you achieve that 5 minutes or that 10 minutes or whatever it is, then you have some emotional momentum built up, a little bit of confidence. You actually did something. So, hey, it's easier to go another 5 or 10 minutes. Like say you want to walk a mile every day. Well, you just can't get yourself started. So you walk for 30 seconds. Okay, every day I'll walk at least 30 seconds. So you walk your 30 seconds, hey, I can go another minute. So it opens the door, it cracks the ice. And so you don't want to overwhelm yourself with big goals that are maybe too big for the month or the week or the day for you to do consistently. You want a small enough goal that you can do that every single day. Like talk to 1 person a day. So how about 5 minutes a day? So every day you commit to talk to 1 person. You can do that, right? But once someone does that, now they're much more empowered to talk to a 2nd person or a 3rd or 4th. And so that's another sort of a technique or trick that we can use to help ourselves and to help our people. There's a couple of really good books along this line. One's called Tiny Habits. The other one's called Atomic Habits. And you can get a review of those books. I think they're 5 or 10 minutes worth on YouTube. And so that's extremely valuable. Okay, so enough said on that. So any questions or comments on that?
Well, look, we've just gone over 30 minutes, but what phenomenal information. I mean, you just gave us like tens of millions of dollars of successful information, Ray. Totally phenomenal. Brilliant. Now let's pass it back to Mark Parsekian in Boston, our fearless chairman leader, responsible for all of North America. Mark Parsekian, the call is yours to wrap up.
Well, Ray, that was phenomenal. You know, I've been in this industry for 30 years, and every time I get on a Zoom and hear, no matter who it is, you learn something new, something different from a different perspective, and it's all valuable. And I just want to thank you so much for being able to share that. I also just want to say, you know, one thing I've learned in this industry, you talked about goals, you talked about a dream. Things go in cycles. So if you're not necessarily seeing the success that you want to have or see, it doesn't mean that you're not meant for it. Okay. It's testing you about how badly do you want that goal or that dream. So you don't give up and you align yourself with people that support you. It's so important to have people in your life that support your vision and your dream. Accountability, like Ray talked about. So Ian and I, we've been at this for 30 something years, and we've failed more often than we've succeeded, but we never gave up. And I can't emphasize that enough, is have people you could do a three-way call with, three-way calls. Let that other person be the expert and you're bringing your friend to a call or to a Zoom. But those little incremental causes that you make, and don't get discouraged. I remember, I'm just going to add this. I remember when we first started, if we could only make $300 a month promoting the algae. And we were so excited because that was a lot of money to do something we didn't even think we deserved to make money on. We were just sharing it. We got to 300 a month. Then let's make 500 a month. And before you know it, our belief system started to change. Then it was $1,000 a month. Then it was 3,000, 5,000, 15, 20,000. And that's how it works. We rub against each other and we help each other grow to the next level of belief and experience and skill sets. And that's what these videos, that's what these Zooms are for every week. And hopefully we'll be having them more often. But Ian, with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you. And thank you again for being a great host.
And Mark, thank you for setting the stage so Cerule could exist in North America. And Ray Gebauer, what a valuable information, chock full of wisdom, knowledge, enough to change all of our lives. And thank all of you from all over the world for being on. And we'll be back the same time, same place in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.